Okay, so it looks like my USB mic is just screaming, making noise now. I'm gonna have to plug in through analog. I'm going through Reaper to do this. But if anybody has a good suggestion on cheap USB mic that I can use, this is the Audio Technica one. I thought it was a good one. It's kind of an expensive one, I think. But maybe it's just the nature of USB. It's just gonna wheeze. I don't know. Let me know. I'm running through Reaper, so it sounds good. But anyway, let me know. So this is number 13 now. So it's more Quora questions I fell behind in. Wanting to get Jim Roseberry on and really talk about interfaces. A lot has changed, and are we really doing Thunderbolt now, even on Windows? I don't know. What else is new? Why are we still running so many USB 2U interfaces? So there's lots of stuff I want to talk to Jim about. I've been trying to get him on here. Brandon Heyer, I've been trying to get on. Kaikani. Lots of stuff about, the stuff I'm usually fighting about is, everybody telling noobs they got to go spend $5,000 on some nonsense piece of gear that isn't going to do anything for them. I love talking about that stuff. I hate hearing it, but, if we can talk about it, maybe we'll always have a resource that we can send back to. But I guess for the time being, I'm not sure how this sounds. I'm using, check it out. So I'm going into Reaper because I don't trust the USB output on this mic. So I'm using Tri-Leveler as usual, which I really like. It's like Broadcast, but newer. Has a whole bunch of latency, so I wouldn't use this thing in real time, but I'm not listening to the broadcast in real time, so I think it's okay. So you can see what it's doing here. And this is the same guys who make the Bass Professor plugin, which I love to pieces, which also has some latency. I'd love to see a zero latency version of that. Hint, hint, hint. And then I'm going to recomp right after that, just in case there's some overs or something. And so then from there, I'm going to OBS and just using that ASIO bridge. I don't want to use this ASIO bridge. I don't want to do these ridiculous things in order to get audio from one place to another. It's not really going to work out for me very well to send a Reaper or to put my mic in Reaper if I'm doing like Reaper tracks and stuff. So this can't be how I'm doing it when I'm doing when I have Reaper on the stream as well, like doing mixes or whatever. So I'm going to have to figure out something. I might be moving back to my Dante card. I know I keep saying that. The Audio Nate guys still haven't fixed the driver, nor has Focusrite as far as I know. So I'm kind of hesitant to put it back on there because I really do love Bias and Bias Effects. But Behringer doesn't allow, on the current drivers anyway, they pulled the newest drivers off. If I wanted to use the my mic preamps for this, you'll see device. There is no where is it? Man, if I made a new one anyway, there's only input 1 and 2 for the Behringer drivers for this Midas M32, which is absolutely pathetic. They did have some newer drivers that were buggy that did let you have all the ins and outs, I think. But they're no longer on the website, and I guess I could put the Dante one back on and really take care of it. But this is still ridiculous trying to move audio between apps on Windows. But anyway, we'll get back to what was the topic at hand, even though these are the topics I really think need to be talked about all the time. So anyway, we're going to go back to Quora here and see what we got. Okay, so this is what shows up in my feed. So that's what I'm reading. I don't know why it puts advice about children. I don't know nothing about that stuff. How can I record a song that sounds like a professional? What software and hardware will I need? Will an ordinary headphone microphone do the job? So maybe I've been infected with postmodernism just too much at this point, where for that last question I could say, will an ordinary headphone microphone do the job? It depends. But really, probably not. How can I record a song that sounds like a professional? Well, more than important than anything else, and I know it's my job to make things sound a certain way or whatever, but I'll take a well-written song above everything else. So first of all, write a song that sounds like a professional. And I know, there's plenty of professionals that are on the radio making money, whatever, that don't sound very good. And the songs are written I think like crap. But I would say write a song that sounds like a professional. Arrange it so it sounds professional. And then after that, and I'll fight about this all day long. I don't care. Get to record it. Well, just get it recorded right. I've heard stories about acoustic guitars sounding good recorded through iPad and iPhone mics. For me, an interface, they got packages like at Sweetwater or whatever for a couple $100. You can get a 2-channel interface from Focusrite or whoever. It comes with a microphone and some headphones. That's what I'd do. We can argue all day if you want about whether or not a $20,000 converter sounds noticeably better than the converters that come inside these audio interfaces. Whether a $5,000 mic preamp sounds better than the mic preamp that comes with this thing, but I don't think anybody cares. I think they care about if it's a good song. Can you hear it? Is it stupidly noisy? We even put up with noise. I don't want to get all postmodern and stuff, but today's microphone preamps and converters are so good. In many ways, they beat the specs of, units we used 20 years ago to make all these hits. So just if all you're doing is singing and something that can be captured with 2 simultaneous inputs at a time, just go buy that Focusrite thing. What is it? Let me find this thing. I mean, there's a bunches of these, but there's a Focusrite bundle. Let's see, what do we got here? $269. Look at this. You get a condenser mic, you get a 2i2, and you get headphones. The 2i2 doesn't have a MIDI port, I don't think, but it does have 2 mic preamps. Decent ASIO drivers. If you're wondering about them, you can go to my just type in round trip latency roundup, and you'll find my chart that has all the driver families on it and what their round trip latencies are. So this 2i2, it's got 2 mic preamp inputs, and it's also got 2 line inputs, and it's got 2 instrument inputs. So you don't even need DIs. The older ones had a DI that would clip a little bit. I think this one's been taken care of. Oh yeah. Hey Woody. I'm live now at the school. And so this thing comes with the mic, some kind of condenser mic. Sure, it's cheap. It's not an M49. I'm sure it's fine. And I bet you if you get most people to listen to it, and anybody who is actually going to buy your album listening to it, they're not going to care. Is it a Neumann M49 or is it this cheap thing that came with my Scarlett bundle? They're not going to know. They're not going to care. This mic is going to be plenty good enough, low noise enough, and it's going to have a decent enough frequency response. It's going to sound fine. And it comes with some headphones. It looks like some maybe closed back headphones. I don't know. If you want, go upgrade the headphones. But so that's that. So what software and hardware would I need? That's the hardware you need. Software wise, you can go, of course I'm biased, so I'd tell you go buy Reaper, but if you're not going to work with anybody, maybe you could use GarageBand. I hate that software because you can't export stuff as easily as I'd like. But if you want, go use GarageBand. Audacity's free. There's a lot of free programs out there. Use whatever you want. Will an ordinary headphone microphone do the job? Again, I'm not going to say never say never, because, I'm sure there's some hit EDM track out there where the guy's just yelling through a headset mic. But, Woody, I'd love to do another album. I'd love to do the drums here because I'm getting killer drum sounds here, but we can sure talk about that. Will an ordinary headphone mic do a job? Just buy that bundle and just use the microphone that comes with that. You might need a pop filter. You're probably going to need a mic stand or something. But that's what you need. If you want to record a song that sounds like a professional, that's the software and hardware, and that's the microphone. But the most important thing you're going to need, aside from that writing a good song, you're going to need the skills to use this stuff. And that's not all that easy. But again, like they say, if the song sucks, the mix is irrelevant. You might just mix yourself look at that Beck guy, man. It sounded horrible. And he had some hits out of that thing. So anyway, I'm going to go on from here. What's the fastest way to mix a song? Yeah, I love this one. Back in the day, we used to have these jazz guys come in that just wanted to go live to 2-track. And later on, they'd want to go live to DAT. Sometimes they still wanted just a 2-track tape. We had a 1/4-inch 2-track, and we had a 1/2-inch 2-track. And we used to get these guys. I think it was Dave Cook was one of them, Joey DeFrancesco, and we would have they'd all just they'd mix themselves. We'd get a decent mix out of whatever they had, but we would record something real quick of them playing, and they would rearrange themselves. Like, oh, we got to move closer here or play louder. Like, oh, it's crazy. The bands that mix themselves. So that was the fastest way to mix a song, is that you were recording it and the mix was already done and you're done. I like this guy's answer, getting a professional and experienced mix engineer to do it. I don't know. That might not be the fastest, but that's going to take the least time out of you, maybe. What's the fastest way to mix a song? Assuming it's a regular multi-track song and stuff. I know as much people are going to hate hearing this. Have some templates. You can do this stuff with some recording templates and just be done with it. You can have it so that generally it's going to work very close to what it is. And the more you work with that template, the more you fine-tuned it, and closer you're going to get. But it really depends what you want. That's a hard one-size-fits-all answer to give. What's the fastest way to mix a song? Play it well so you don't have to edit. I find that it ain't the mixing that takes so long. It's the editing, the arranging, and all the stuff before you're mixing. And I tend to do the editing and the mixing at the same time. So, I'm guilty of that. What's the difference between mixing and mastering? This is awesome because for me, and I think people in my generations, these are such separate things. It's just, you get different people to do these things, different equipment to do these things, different rooms to do these things, different speakers to do these things. And again, like maybe I'm saying it twice, different people to do these things. But nowadays there's so many people who offer the service of mixing and mastering. They mix. You get bands who write, record, mix, and master. The same guy doing all that on the same song, and a lot of them turn out fine. So I'm not, again, sorry for the postmodernism, but I'm not gonna say, I'm gonna say it. Never say never. Maybe the same guys can do it. To me, for mixing, I worried about getting the songs to sound their best. Whatever the songs had to say, that's all I care. Get those songs to sound good. The mastering engineer would take all these songs and make them sound like they belong together. And they would often do not just a little, but a lot of final touch up and things. Nowadays we see a lot of mastering engineers that want the stems. So they're mixing as well as mastering. And there's plenty of good reason for that. Like, if I sent my mastering engineer some stuff and he's like, man, this would sound great if I could just turn the vocals up a tiny bit. And I agreed, fine. That makes sense. What I don't really like is lately we've been getting a lot of mastering engineers that also think they're mixing engineers, and they end up just completely not having the song make the same sound that the engineers and the producers had in mind themselves. So you got a question in the chat. What do you think of mastering programs like Lander? Man, I got to hear a couple tests between a couple different automatic and online mastering services versus real mastering engineers. And sometimes it turned out pretty good, and this is the thing, like, who knows, maybe this is maybe this is like a radiologist. You go to school for 12 years and pay $100,000 to learn how to read charts and stuff that have to do with predicting cancer, and now a computer can do it better. Maybe that's the future. Maybe you don't need mixing engineers anymore. Maybe you don't even need people to write songs anymore. Scary. Artificial intelligence is getting there. So far, I like my mastering engineer better than I like Lander. And I know people were arguing whether it's called Lander or L&R. But I know that the guy who runs Lander is actively interested in improving the product. So, oh, that's scary. I know a lot of people who are doing podcasts that are using Lander for mastering their podcasts, and it's turning out awesome. But every test I've heard so far of music that is close to what I'm working on, the mastering engineer's beaten Lander every single time. I hate to say it, but sometimes not by all that much. And honestly, I think a person listening on Spotify or whatever is probably not going to care, as much as I hate to say it. I think there's going to be a smack and a punch that the real mastering engineer is going to get that you're going to have trouble beating with Lander. But if it's a small project and you're not really spending any money, maybe that, or maybe Ozone 8's. Actually, I think it's to be cheaper to send it to Lander than buying a copy of Ozone 8. So I don't know. Lander's pretty good. I don't want to say it, but it is. It's pretty good, and they're probably going to make a mixing program that's going to handle it soon enough anyway. And then we're all screwed. Okay, so hopefully that's the difference between mixing and mastering. The mastering engineer puts albums together in general, but then again, because everybody's doing singles now, the mastering engineer just takes that last 2-track and just makes the sound of the best it can. Sometimes, nowadays it's mostly about volume. Everybody just wants it louder, 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 which thankfully the volume wars are kind of over, because YouTube's just going to turn that down. Spotify's just going to turn it down. No, I don't need a sample of Lander. I've heard plenty, and I've heard it sounding good. Unless you're saying I send you a sample of your next album, which, send me a sample. Okay. Why are quarter inches used in musical instruments, and why do mics use an XLR? Musical instruments usually provide a pretty hot signal level, and don't need to send out a balanced signal. So if you're talking about guitars and stuff, they're going to an amplifier input or a DI input that's used to hearing an unbalanced signal. It wouldn't hurt if we started using balanced signals in guitars. Not at all. But in general, it's not like a super low output thing like a microphone where, just running it down 20 feet of cable is going to degrade the signal so much and add so much noise and pick up radio stations and everything else. So mics use an XLR because they have very, very, very low outputs, and a balanced signal will protect them from some of the noise they would have dealt with otherwise. That's the answer to that, I think. What's the best mic to use for a small choir? Depends on the room. If you're in an awesome room, like let's say you're in a church and it's maybe it's got a lot of crowd noise, but it doesn't really have a bunch of wind noise coming through it. People might kill me for this, but I would say just put an Omni mic. I don't care if it's small diaphragm or large diaphragm. Large diaphragm, you're going to get rid of a little bit of electronic noise. But I would just take an Omni mic and I'd get the whole space, or best, you say one mic. So I'm not going to talk about stereo mics, but an Omni mic on the choir, if it's in a nice room, you're getting that beautiful room. There you go. If not, then, you start putting mics close up to a choir, you're going to start, imagine you're looking at a mixer with a bunch of faders up and down on it. That's what a choir is. So if you're up close, you're really hoping that all those faders are set to the same spot. So again, if the room's dead enough, you get a choir mic and get those guys spaced equidistant from the microphone. I'd still probably go with an Omni, but maybe you'll get away with a cardioid way out in front of them. Again, I'd throw an Omni mic in there. Once you start talking stereo, you can start talking about small diaphragm condensers and MS mics and all that stuff. But I'd say just a Omni, and it doesn't have to be expensive. Whatever, hang me for it. But I'll say, buy one of these $100, $200 mics, and you'll be fine. What's the Cadillac of microphones? To me, it's the 414. As much as people hate them, it's a really good low noise mic that can handle a lot of SPL and has a pattern selector, so I can pick whatever pattern I want. Give me 2 414s. That's the Cadillac of microphones. What do I actually use? I'll use anything that's decent and doesn't distort and isn't noisy, But Cadillac wise, we had a matched quartet of M49s. That's Cadillac. Stereo mic. This guy was asking about a single mic. So stereo mic can do a whole lot. And the Shure VP88 is an awesome mic. It does MS. So it has its own... It's got a weird kind of way that it does MS. Okay, let's see what else we got. As a studio recording engineer, do you ever adjust the EQ of a channel before recording? Yes, plenty do. I tend not to anymore. I record everything kind of flat because I can change it later on, but there's a lot to be said to having an idea of what you want that final mix to sound like, and go ahead and we would pan noobs for smashing things too much with the compressor on the way in, but if if you're really recording what you want to hear in the end, go ahead. And back in the day, you might have maybe your studio has one LA2A. Okay, I'm gonna say some names of stuff, but I don't really care about this stuff anymore. And I'm not gonna tell you that this is if you don't have it, you can't make good records. I don't believe that at all. And I don't even care about this stuff anymore. But back in the day, we had one LA2A in the studio, let's say. So you can't go and run 30 of them on the mix later on when you're done. So you might want to use that on the way in. And that's just how you did it. When we recorded Stevie Nicks, a lot of times we would have, here's her chain. She would have a, I know everybody always sees her with the 441, but it wasn't always a 441. Often it was an M49. Often it was a C12. It would be a C12 to the Neve Kelso, which wasn't even a Class A Neve. It was a AB. And then it would go to LA2A, and then it would go to a Pultec. That was the chain. And we would do some pretty radical EQ even with the Pultec on the way in. And that would go to the Studer, and contrary to popular belief, we didn't go in that hot. Maybe we'd peak 3 decibels above 0 VU, and that definitely we're adjusting the EQ of a channel before the recording. So we're recording with the effects on. I don't do it anymore. I don't even put the high pass switches on microphones usually when I'm recording anymore. I think I got the best of both worlds. If I put my plugins that again. Okay, so this is why people give me a lot of crap about it, but I won't use latent plugins because I don't want the mix and the tracking process to be two different things. I want to be able to get the types of sounds and the type of plugins that I'm going to use on the actual mix while I'm recording, and so that makes me think hard about plugin choice, not just because I have to have zero latency plugins, but I also have to make sure that I'm not using buggy plugins that are going to crash the mix. I also have to use plugins that aren't eating that much CPU. And thankfully, that's not a hard thing to do, even for free. The free plugins that come with Reaper will let you do that just fine. I'm using some aftermarket plugins nowadays. But you can do this. So anyway, that's hopefully that answers it. So I tend to record everything flat, but if you're sure about what you want to hear, or even if you're not, man, mistakes make you learn, and sometimes mistakes work out for the better anyway. So go ahead. Woody Wood, your Last Man on a String album is exactly what you could be done with mid-level gear. And I didn't feel constrained in any way. I had the mics I wanted. I had the mic preamps I wanted. I'm not one of those people who, you can find all these old pictures of me in front of piles and piles of the most expensive boutique mic preamps in the world. If Jimmy Z's listening, we had all that stuff. And maybe I'm just deaf, but I don't hear anything special. I hear that they distort differently if you really give it to them. And honestly, I'm going to be honest. Some of them don't pass bass so well. Some of them don't pass treble so well. Maybe you think that makes it sound warm. I don't know. But give me some perfectly flat mic preamps and I'll do just fine. Would I like to have racks full of Neve 1073s and whatever else, 1272s and piles of things? Maybe. Maybe just because it puts the customers at ease. I probably wouldn't use them, but they'll be sitting there turned on with the lights on. I think if there's an Avalon here someplace, I don't use it. I'm really having good luck with these Midas M32 mic preamps and the DL32. So I think nowadays, if I'm going to do some remote recording, I was actually thinking of, for the kids, I was going to get an Xair 18, that new cheap Behringer thing, and use that for their PA system and for mobile recording. It's got 18 inputs. I think that's more than enough for most of the things I'm going to do. But if I really had to work hard, maybe I would do I could just take this DL32, this Midas 32 mic preamps I've got, box, and just pair that with a Behringer X32 rack. I think that thing's, so the X32 rack, I think it's $1,000. It's got 16 of its own mic preamps, but it'll let you plug in this DL32 box where you'd have 32 of these Midas mic pre's. And if you can't make a good album out of that, you suck anyway. But maybe I'm not really sure what exactly I would use. I like that Xair 18 because, man, that's a handy little PA system, and you can control it with an iPad. I'm not sure if you can control these things with Wi-Fi on the X32 rack, but maybe that's a smarter idea. Get an X32 rack and get bring the DL32 for remote recording, whatever. But man, I wouldn't even sweat it. Ethan Weiner gets a lot of crap for this, but he's right. If you test this stuff, it's pretty good. And what are people listening to on Spotify with MP3s and stuff? Come on, you're not the difference between this gear, even if it existed, and even if you can agree what better is rather than different. I'm pretty sure that MP3 process is gonna whack it out of there anyway. So let's see. How often do microphones get broken when somebody does a mic drop? Okay. 57s are tough as hell, but that stupid grill in front that makes all that rattling noise and stuff, that thing can break from one mic drop. 58 is probably going to survive a couple of them, but you know what? If you're going to have people dropping your microphones, go get a stunt microphone, Go buy those cheap Behringer XM 8500s or whatever, let them drop them all day long. If they break, so what? To me, if I'm going to have people dropping mics, if that's part of my act, then I'm just going to, I'm not going to care how often they get broken because that's part of the show. But in general, if somebody's dropping my mics, I'm dropping them. So it's not a thing I'd really worry about, I wouldn't think. What do I need to record drums? Boy, I love this. go to my YouTube channel, man. I'm recording drums all the time. I did a video where I took that $100 Pyle mic. It's like a drum microphone set from Pyle. Let me see if I can find it. So here it is. It's on Amazon. It's the Pyle Pro 7-piece wired dynamic drum mic kit. So this thing had like a kick drum mic, 4 dynamic mics for recording snares and toms and things, and 2 I think they're cardioid little small diaphragm condenser mics. And I did some videos where I recorded with these things. Sounded fine. Go ahead, make all the complaints you want. I wasn't super thrilled with the kick drum mic, but I was able. You go see the videos for yourself. Go to Pipeline Audio on YouTube, and that's the mic. So there's $100, $105 for the mics. And yeah, sure, you could spend a whole lot more on mics. You could spend $10,000, $100,000 on drum mics, whatever. If you got a good song and you know what you're doing, this is going to let you do it. The harder part to me is going to be the interface. Again, you could spend $500, get this Behringer XR 18 $500 interface, and I bet you it'd sound just fine. You're gonna have to have a strong enough computer to handle it. Focusrite has the 18i20, so you would need that and another 8-channel mic preamp, which you could buy the Behringer 8200 for a couple $100, whatever, or buy something more expensive if you want. That's what you need gear-wise to record drums. A way for the drummer to hear the other parts, assuming you record them ahead of time. What I usually do is I record scratch guitars and vocals and stuff to a click, and then I'll clean those up really good so that there's nothing ambiguous for the drummer, and then I'll send the drummer that stuff plus a click track in the headphones, and then they play to it. So those mics, a couple of mic stands. They come with clips, but the 2 condensers will need mic stands. All the cables you're going to need. Again, don't go buy $5 billion cables. Just buy sensible cables with good ends on them. There's a bunch of crappy ones out there that don't connect very well. In general, cables all sound the same unless they're broken. Don't buy into that crap. Get those. The mic stands, the cables, the mics. An interface, again, like that XR18 or one of these Focusrite 18i20s and a 8-channel mic preamp with ADAT. And then you need a room to record them in. And then you need a drummer that can actually play them well. You're going to find out that it doesn't matter how good you set up the mics. If the drummer's sucking, it's going to sound horrible. If they hit them wrong, it's going to sound bad. You need a good drummer. And I think that's as far as I'm going to get on these today. And okay, so yeah, Bobby's QSC mixer is very similar to that. You can control it with iPads and Wi-Fi and all that. I'm probably going to end up getting for remote recording an X32 rack, and I'm probably going to move my DL32 out of the big room, and I'm just going to put the mic snake back in there. The computer you got from Jim Roseberry is doing awesome. That's the one I'm working on right now. And maybe one day I'm going to upgrade, but so far it's working killer. I have a laptop I can use for mobile recording. I actually have a really good Motu I can use for mobile recording. I can do with mic preamps and stuff. But yeah, that computer's, and that's the thing. I really want to get Jim Roseberry on here. I really want to talk about interfaces. We need to do that. I will talk to you guys later. I'm going to sign out on this thing. See you later.